Thank you, Madam Chair. Mrs. Long, as representative from Wisconsin, America's Dairyland, concerned that too stringent standards on milk and sodium could effectively remove foods like cheese from the school lunch program. What's the status of the department's meal pattern rule, and what will the sodium limit for schools be?
Thank you for your question, Congressman. So in terms of the status of school meal rules, we are currently operating under a rule that we published earlier this year that will be in place for the next 2 school years that sets standards for sodium, which you asked about, that are for this coming year are similar to what was in place before the pandemic. And we are working, as I said in my opening statement, on a longer-term update of the school meals standards that, with the intent that would come into place after the next 2 school years. That will consider everything from sodium, every aspect of the program, and it will be a proposed rule and open to public comment.
So in regards to that, if the levels of sodium are found to be not in line with what the standards would be, what could you do about that, or how would you address that so they'd be able to work with those that are not just cheese producers but other different commodities that are part of the school lunches?
Yeah, that raises a really important point. We see our role not only as sort of setting the rules and the standards, but providing the support that's needed for the rules to be achievable at the local school level. We have been engaging extensively with school program operators and industry around these issues, and we have talked a lot about sodium. So we are listening to manufacturers in terms of the kind of lead time they need, the kind of challenges they're facing, what particular products might be more and less challenging. We're talking to school program operators about the kind of training they need, the kind of equipment they might need to move more towards scratch cooking, because that can be a tool to reduce sodium. As I've said before, we know that standards need to be workable and durable in the school context to make an impact. So that is absolutely the goal that we're moving toward.
The last question I have is more anecdotal, but certainly something that you hear all the time, and that is the amount of waste associated with school lunches. Frustrating for people when they're either working a lunchroom or serving in a lunchroom to see just full trays of food scraped into the garbage as they walk out. Is that something that the Department of Ag, is there any way of monitoring that or knowing whether or not there's a real relationship between nutrition and certainly what kids want and them, instead of just discarding this food?
Yeah, well, certainly there's too much waste in the food system at every point, and there is waste in schools. That's a fact. Now, I will say that the research shows, the research really doesn't support the idea that healthier meals are wasted more. In fact, our research shows the opposite, that kids actually participate more in schools that have strong meal standards. But we certainly do focus our thinking and our technical assistance around reducing waste. We share with schools best practices, things like doing taste tests with the kids so that they're getting served things that they like and will eat instead of a throwaway. Again, I keep singing the praises of farm to school programs, but we've definitely heard that when kids are engaged in things like school gardens or greenhouses and they learn about a particular item, they're much more likely to try it in a school food program. So, we recognize that waste is always a challenge, and we do our very best to try to support schools and share, best practices and resources for reducing waste.
Thank you very much. I yield back.